But on Tuesday, Spurs played Oklahoma City. It's kind of like the big game of the week because San Antonio had won three straight on the Thunder. So this what happened that game is the Thunder end up winning, kind of blowing out the Spurs 119-98. So the series is now 3-1. I will say they've played four times. They have one more still to come. So the next game is February 4th, and that one game will be in San Antonio. So what do we think like after this game, with the Spurs losing or getting blown out really in OKC?
Series is 3-1. I think that win would have said more on Christmas Day than it did this week. Both teams wanted to win. It's not like Spurs went in saying we don't care if we get this game. Both teams wanted to win it.
Yeah, they won. I think they won everyone, right?
I think I said it before. This was like the biggest game of the season for the Thunder, right? You lose to this team who, as whatever you want to say about rivalries, this is their rival, right? Like the Spurs and Thunder have been rivals for a bit from the OKC with Harden and Westbrook and KD days and knocking off, the older Spurs. This has been a rival for them. So there's nothing like anybody's going to say now, yep, the Spurs have not been to the playoffs. OKC just won a championship. But yes, this was a big rivalry. This was a huge game. I know SGA said after this wasn't our Super Bowl. If you've got to say it's not your Super Bowl, I think it was a big game for you and your team. And I think if they would have lost, I think it would have done a lot to hamper kind of their vision in the league. I don't think, for the Spurs, you all of a sudden think, man, we're not there. We don't have the ability. But I definitely think it showed a lot of the things that have really hurt them over the last month since they beat the Thunder those 3 games in a row, right? I think they continue they continue to struggle from 3. Struggle from 3. You've got the turnover issues that have just continued to plague them. I think the biggest thing that stood out though is how I would say De'Aaron Fox's play, and just how not aggressive he was in that game. And I think yesterday against Milwaukee, he showed a lot more of that kind of fire and intensity. But that was something I thought really stood out was like that first 2 quarters, they looked fine. You could, the Spurs were struggling from 3 again. And then that third quarter just kind of blew it open. And you just saw the Spurs kind of stumble through it, right? Like you've got some vets. Harrison Barnes just continued to struggle from 3. Yeah. De'Aaron Fox just is turned into a non-factor some games. I loved how Castle came back from his last couple games, and I thought Dylan Harper played really well too off the bench. I thought they both played really well. I thought Wemby had flashes of aggressiveness at times, and then others kind of faded a bit.
At the beginning of the game.
Yeah, I wish he would have stayed as aggressive. But again, if I'm OKC, we got over the hump. We beat this team that maybe we knew we were better than or felt we were better than, but we hadn't beat them yet, and the world didn't know yet. So I think for them, they feel like we can puff our chest out a little bit. We can show you that we beat this team that everyone thought was, the Thunder stopper. I think for the Spurs, you take it back and say, hey, we hung with this team 3 times, and not just hung with them. They, blew them out twice already in this season, and then beat them in the Emirates Cup game. So I think for the Spurs, you just go back to the drawing board. You kind of knew on paper, right? Like nobody matched up with the Thunder well. I think the Spurs still say, hey, we hung with you for 2 quarters. We let the third quarter slip away from us. We're going to game plan and change that. And at some point, the Spurs are going to shoot better than they have. And I think then you'll get to really see who they are. So,
well, Vassell didn't play. So that part, he's typically a big part of their shooting. The Thunder without Hartenstein. So there's a big there that, he's, I think, one of their better defenders defensively, or on the defensive end, he's one of their better defenders. So helps them a lot. So I will say this: it looks like OKC was stumbling, after the first Spurs loss in December. Now they're 8-2 in the last 10. They've won 5 in a row. So, they're kind of getting back to winning, getting on the right track. Spurs are 5-5. They had those back-to-back losses, the Minnesota and the Thunder. but they beat Milwaukee. So it looks like the Spurs are still trying to figure it out, and the OKC is kind of on the right track. It's a long season. They do play next month in San Antonio. Is that a high stakes game? The last game, game 5?
I think it's probably. I mean, the Spurs won the season series, right? Well, essentially, you're playing them 4 times that you should. You won the Emirates Cup game, so no matter what, you're going to win the matchups for the season. I think it's a big one for the Spurs. I think at that time, I'm hoping that Vassell's back. You're hoping that Barnes and Fox are playing much better than they are. You're hoping that Harper and Castle can continue their great play. I think that's what you look for, and you get to that game, and it's probably was that after All-Star, right? That they're back. Is March? You said March game.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so when the game is?
Yeah,
it's February 4th.
Okay, so you're right before All-Star, right? Right before All-Star break.
Last meeting, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So I mean, yeah, it's a statement going into All-Star that hey, like halfway through the season, are we here? I'll say this: OKC, they're right where they are supposed to be. You're the defending champs. You were 24-1. Then you started losing. Their goal is you have to stay number 1. You need that home court. The Spurs, I mean, I think I'd pick them 6th in the West, and I think for them they're overachieving now. But for sure, going into that last meeting after you just got thumped, you want to take a 4-1 record against the Thunder this year to the playoffs. So I think it's a big one for San Antonio. Not as big as I think OKC was in needing to win this game. But I think it'll be big for them, right? And depending on where they're at, if the Spurs are 5-5 now, and let's say, they go into that game 7-3, or 6-4, it becomes even bigger. I think if OKC stays kind of where they're set, then, they'll find themselves in a good spot.
Yeah, I think, for the Spurs, I think they're just going to make sure that they stay in that 2nd seed. Denver's caught up to them miraculously without Jokic, which is a crazy story in itself. You got Minnesota there lurking too. If you're in that 2nd seed, I think those are some teams that you can beat in the playoffs, and then you hopefully would run into the Thunder again in like the Western Conference Championships. So I think they, just need to make sure that they're kind of sitting there in that 2nd seed, but it's not going to be easy. They need you could tell they're still trying to figure things out. So we'll see. It's still a lot of season left. We haven't even hit All-Star weekend. So
that's the thing with the Spurs, though. They are the only team in that top echelon that is still figuring out who they're going to be. You know who Denver is, right? If they've got Jokic, they are a potential championship winning team. You know who the Timberwolves are, right? If they make some type of trade, they'll have a better look at it. But you know who Ant is, you know what that scheme is, you know what they're gonna do, you know who OKC is. The Spurs are the dark horse, right? Nobody expected them to be here. The fact that they are is there, and I think that's what scares everyone. Is like these guys are young, they're athletic, and they seem to love to play together, right? And I think that's the other thing that those teams have. Just on a different scale. And it always helps when you've got a top 5 player. So each of those teams, again, you've got a top 5 guy on your squad. So it'll be interesting to see when they come, to All-Star break, and you really get to see like how the Spurs have come to mesh together.
Yeah, I think, especially playing with a team that's fully healthy. I mean, they've only been fully healthy. Just, I'm not sure. Not very many games. There's always someone that seems to be out. So, we'll see. That's part of the fun of this ride is just seeing how, seeing what they become.